Despair and fear. Will Cain, co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend, will your take?
You know, it's a shame that our political leadership not only focuses on their political agenda instead of improving the quality of life of the American citizen, but that they actively encourage the deterioration of the quality of life of the American citizen. Let's talk about ghost guns. You know, you can look over a 20-year horizon. Harris, you can say, starting in the 1990s, gun ownership in the United States of America went up, and went up pretty dramatically. At the same time, crime dropped. That's an odd correlation to blame the tool of the crime instead of the criminal. And then now we know over the last 2 years, crime has gone up. Well, what kind of crimes? Not all of them are gun crimes. Assault, car theft from city to city with varying gun laws has gone up. That doesn't seem to suggest you should focus on the tool of the crime, but rather the criminal. We know it's DAs, it's policies, it's letting, accused and convicted criminals out onto the streets earlier. But the Biden administration is encouraging the deterioration of our quality of life by focusing on their political agenda, the gun, and as David, I think, very appropriately pointed out, the scary term of ghost gun, instead of the criminals that are actually deteriorating our life. This isn't simply focusing on the wrong thing. This is contributing to the decline of safety in America.
Well, it's interesting, too, because that would mean that they'd have to get entangled with some of the liberal DAs out there who have gone soft on crime and who have basically phased out making much a crime anyway at certain levels, misdemeanors and so on. Not to mention, too, these subway stabbings over the last year have gone up in New York City. I don't see anybody talking about outlawing knives. But we'll move on. Dr. Anthony Fauci changing his tune again on COVID-19, saying it's now up to Americans to make our own risk assessments. Let's watch together.
This is not going to be eradicated, and it's not going to be eliminated. And what's going to happen is that we're going to see that each individual is going to have to make their calculation of the amount of risk. We're going to have to live with some degree of virus in the community.
Fauci's remarks come as the CDC has labeled most of our nation a green zone, indicating a low level of concern about infection. But there are still mandates and people pushing back against them. This video from Los Angeles just over the weekend. Thousands rallying against vaccine mandates. Will.
Yeah, when you introduced the topic, I kind of was smiling because, let's be real, Dr. Anthony Fauci has turned into a joke, but we can't just laugh it off because he is, in fact, the de facto domestic president of the United States over the last 2 years, dictating, and I do underline, highlight, and mean dictating American policy for 2 years, just simply with a press appearance, just simply by giving an interview on CNN. He has dictated the way we have lived our life. It's time for him to go away. Yes, of course, Americans should make individual risk assessments, as they should have been, and for that matter, many have over the last 2 years. Just because Dr. Anthony Fauci is saying it now should not mean it is so. It should have always been so. And what else should be so is it should be goodbye to Dr. Anthony Fauci. Democratically elected leaders should be the ones guiding how we live our lives. I should say we are the ones that dictate how we live our life. To the extent that we hand over control to the government, it shouldn't be by an unelected bureaucrat who rules by fiat. It should be by our democratically elected leaders.
Well, I wonder, too, I mean, are we still taking, kind of en masse his word at this point when all he does really at this point, it would seem, is quote what the CDC is saying? Like, we can listen to the CDC without him being the go-between in all of this. I don't know. Your last quick thought. We'll move on.
Well, I'll just say this. I don't know how many Americans turn to Dr. Anthony Fauci for their guidance. I think there's a small ruling elite that still consider him to be some type of high priest. And I will say this as well. I don't think many Americans turn to the CDC. I think both of those institutions, the NIH and the CDC, have burned all sorts of credibility. And you know what, Harris? You know what would be a sad task? And maybe you can do it here on the Faulkner Focus. But which institutions in the United States of America, media, the medical establishment, have lost the most credibility over the last 2 years?
Yeah, it's a sad slide. I've seen the numbers on news media as people have lost faith, especially after something like the laptop of Hunter Biden and how many news outlets call that disinformation. We'll move on.
Right.
New video showing illegal immigrants being dropped off in Westchester, New York, late Saturday night. It comes as Texas is ramping up its fight with Washington, D.C. over the border crisis. Governor Greg Abbott of Texas announced last week the state will now bus illegal immigrants to our nation's capital. Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick with this warning for the Biden White House.
You're seeing the first step of a constitutional showdown between the governor and the legislature and the state of Texas and the federal government. Because Jen Psaki, how dare her say in her press conference the other day, well, this is a publicity stunt. What's the problem? Don't you like illegal immigrants, Jen? Doesn't the president want them in his home state? By the end of the first term of Joe Biden, nearly 20% of all Americans will be here illegally.
Did you hear that number? 20% of anything
I was sitting on
is a
set.
lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I heard the number because I was sitting on set, and I'm just glad I wore a different tie today. That was on Fox and Friends weekend yesterday. It's an amazing number, right, Harris? 20% of all Americans in the country illegally by the end of the first term of the Biden administration. So says the Lieutenant Governor of Texas. He's projecting out at the current rate and what the rate will soon be should we rescind Title 42. You know, I think it was fascinating. On Fox and Friends this weekend, we interviewed Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. We also interviewed Attorney General Ken Paxton. They both said the following. The reason that Texas and the governor will ship illegal immigrants to Washington, D.C. is, yes, because it's symbolically the right thing to do. You know, legislators and the administration should see and live with the impact of their own policies. Can't tell you how many diners have told me as I've traveled this country, you should send illegal immigrants to Washington, D.C. But more importantly, what both of them said is force a constitutional challenge. If you will not enforce our laws, then we will. And if you tell us, in this case, the state of Texas, that we cannot, let's take it to the Supreme Court. That's the purpose of this act. It's not simply symbolic. It's not just a publicity grab, as Jen Psaki said. It is to force the constitutional challenge.
Yeah, and I wonder how that will roll out. The lieutenant governor, though, when he says 20% of all Americans will be illegal immigrants,
right.
I do want to put a fine point on. What he isn't saying is that we will be filled with legal migrants in this country, which, I mean, that's part of our growth. That's part of our power, our ability to compete on the world stage. It's the texture of our diversity that helps us win. But what he's talking about are people who have either been got away, sneaked into the country, done whatever they could to illegally cross that border. 20% of us will be them.
Yeah, illegal. By the way, the single most ignored word in our border and immigration debates, illegal.
Yes.
Does everybody fully understand involved in this debate? We're talking about people who break the law. Yeah. We're not talking about people who go through the legal immigration process. 1 in 5 of us, 20% of our population here illegally, that's a country headed for national suicide.
Wow. Will Cain, thank you for being in focus.